Welcome to WWE TV, and today I'm doing a special video for you guys. I've been sitting down for about an hour and a half now writing down a list, and basically yesterday I was speaking to my friend Sam. I'll put a link to his channel in the description below, but we were talking about doing a top 10 list of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Now he's going to do his, so I'll imagine he's going to upload that to his channel at some point. So as I say, I'll put a link in the description below. But I've sat down and I've written down my top 10 of who I consider not only my favourite, but the top 10 greatest of all time. It's taken a little while, I've been chopping and changing, and obviously not everyone will perhaps sort of agree with this, but you know, everyone's got their own opinion, and this is just mine, and I put this into my own list. So here we go. Now, I started watching wrestling in the late 80s. I was born in 1985, so that was like WrestleMania 1 time. But I wasn't aware of wrestling until I was about 3 or 4. I used to sit with my nan, my great nan. God rest her soul. She was a huge wrestling fan, so I used to sit with her on Saturday mornings around her house. She'd cook me breakfast and we'd just sit and watch wrestling, and I was hooked straight away. Now, my earliest memories of wrestling really go back to the late 80s, and obviously for me anyway, the first wrestler I was ever truly aware of and the biggest fan of was Hulk Hogan. He was wrestling to me, and I mean, he was the most decorated superstar perhaps of all time. I mean, for me, back when I was a kid, he could do anything because he was Hulk Hogan. You know, I saw him as the strongest man in the world, things like that. I was a huge fan of Hulk Hogan. Obviously, going all these years later, he's not my favourite now, but he had to be on this list, and if it wasn't for him, I don't think we would have a WWE these days. At least not perhaps as big as it is. Now, he's not, you know, in my first 3, my top 3, but I am putting him on the list at number 10. Now, he's not the greatest worker of all time. You know, he's got perhaps a very limited moveset, should I say. I mean, I know him best for his in-ring work, from, you know, his leg drop basically, and all the taunts that he does in the ring, and just the way that he is Hulk Hogan. And if it wasn't for him, as I say, I really don't think there would be the WWE these days. Perhaps if there was one, you know, it wouldn't be as big as it is, but he is Hulk Hogan. Everyone knows who he is, and he was the first wrestler I was ever truly aware of. So he is going in at my number 10. As I say, it's not he's not the greatest in-ring wrestler. You know, he's never been that good, but he is Hulk Hogan, and his merchandise, I had it when I was younger, and everyone knows who he is. So I had to put him on this list, and he is my number 10. Now, for me, the next on my list, I mean, after Hulk Hogan, the next man that I was aware of, but also actually scared of when I was younger. Again, I was only, I mean, we're going back to perhaps 1990 here, 1991, and I was only 5, 6, and I was actually scared of him. I used to have nightmares of this guy, and that is The Undertaker. It sounds crazy now that I used to have nightmares of him, but I did. And that man has blown me away in how he carries himself. He is the most professional and most respected guy, not only within the WWE, but perhaps, I mean, this is my opinion again, the fan base. I don't think anyone respects any wrestler more than The Undertaker. The way he has carried his character through the years and portrayed him, and I think he is absolutely incredible, and as I say, he scared me when I was younger, so he done a good job of being the Phenom and the Dead Man, because I was terrified of him. But obviously all these years later, I've seen him work in the ring, and I've seen him change from what he was in 1991 when he first came in as the Dead Man, and he's grown. He's been a heel. He had the Ministry of Darkness, and then he switched it up and went completely new direction into the American Badass, which I enjoyed. I really enjoyed that. It gave him more time on the mic, and it gave him more opportunities to perhaps fight and put over other wrestlers on the roster. And he was the Dead Man. He was the American Badass for quite a long time. But the one that I've always really enjoyed, obviously, is his Dead Man character, and that's grown and just got so much better throughout the years. And I think his in-ring work has got better and better and better. When you put him in the ring with the likes of Shawn Michaels, I mean, those matches that he had at WrestleMania with him were absolutely insane. They are perhaps some of the greatest matches at WrestleMania ever, without a doubt, hands down. The story that The Undertaker is able to tell in the ring with the people he's in there with. He is a ring general. You know, he's a powerhouse. And it's not just his in-ring work. As I say, it's his character, and it's The Undertaker as a whole that I love. So he is going in at my number 9, because he was the next wrestler that I was aware of as a kid. But obviously now, all these years later, I wouldn't put him, you know, in my top 5, but he is on my list without a doubt, because he is the Undertaker. And I mean, it was a very sad time when the streak got broken last year. I really personally wanted that to go on forever, and I honestly truly thought that once it got broken that the Undertaker was done, he was retired. So the fact that we're actually getting a Bray Wyatt Undertaker match this year at WrestleMania, it's kind of taken me back. You know, I mean, how is he going to work a match at WrestleMania where the streak's not on the line anymore? How is he going to be physically able in the ring after being rushed to hospital last year? But the fact that he's coming back to do it just proves what an amazing, incredible human being this man is. To put his body on the line again, just to entertain the fans once more. You know, he could get severely injured, touch wood, he doesn't, but he's putting his body on the line again, and he's gonna give us everything he's got until his last breath. So thank you to The Undertaker for being who you are and everything that you've done for the business, and thank you for entertaining the hell out of me for years, and I'm looking forward to your match at WrestleMania. So you are my number 9. The next man on my list, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, is Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy was my favourite from sort of the 2000 period onwards. Not all the way through the 2000s, but a good 4 or 5 year block there. He was my favourite because he was my ultimate underdog. Now, he's never ever been good on the mic. You know, there's no arguments there. He's never been good on the mic. But I think he was perhaps one of the greatest sellers in the history of the WWE. I mean, he had me truly believing that he was completely done in the ring sometimes after the moves that he took. He put his body on the line in ways that no other wrestler ever has. He's jumped off jumped off ladders, should I say, off Titantrons. He has done things in that ring that have just blown my mind. As I say, I was watching in the late 80s. You didn't see any of the stuff that Jeff Hardy did. But Jeff Hardy completely gave me this whole new outlook on the WWE at a time that I was getting bored of it, and he had me hooked. I had the mickey taken out of me by my friends for this, because he was my favourite in a time where you had The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, The Undertaker all in the company at the same time. and my favourite was Jeff Hardy. He was the underdog, the greatest, you know, he was my ultimate underdog, and the TLC matches that he put on, the matches in general that he put on, blew me away. I mean, he is incredible, and as I say, he sold so well. He told such a story in that ring that he was the underdog. He was being beaten down, but he had such a big heart, and he rose above it. And he came so close several times to reaching the top, and he never quite got there. Obviously, as you know, he eventually did. He got the WWE Championship, but that was during a time that I actually stopped watching. But he did, he managed to make it, but he never could quite hold on to it long enough for personal reasons. But Jeff Hardy is going in at my number 8. Who is my number 7? Now, my number 7 on the list is Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is my number 7. Kurt Angle had to be on this list. He is phenomenal. He went from Olympic wrestling up to pro wrestling and within the WWE, and he shot up so quickly, and he was in the top stories of the company. He could not only work amazing matches, but his mic work was just so much fun, and he was so entertaining, and most of the time, because he enjoyed doing comedy, his comedy was hilarious, and the stuff that he done with Stone Cold during that heel run was just so entertaining. But you know, his in-ring work alone was phenomenal. I was glued to the screen when Angle was in the ring, and as I say, he shot up in the business so quickly with his Intercontinental Championship and then the WWE Championship. He was involved in perhaps what I consider one of the greatest build-ups to a wrestling match ever, in the 6-man Hell in a Cell match at Armageddon 2000. I watched that pay-per-view 20-30 times just because I love the build. You know, you had the 6 biggest stars in the business in a huge storyline that had me hooked, and I don't think I've ever been more into a story than that one. It was so good, and it all came to a head in that 6-man Hell in a Cell match back in 2000, and Kurt Angle was involved, and he had only been in the business about 18 months, if that, maybe a year. That's just going to show what an amazing guy Kurt Angle was, both in ring and on the mic. He sold himself to the company and the fan base so quickly, so he had to be on this list. Next we have my number 6. Now we're now in 2015, and I took a break, a long break from wrestling, basically when John Cena started the company, not long after, all the way through pretty much until end of 2011. That was for many reasons really. I was just busy working and just kind of grew out of wrestling for a while. And I started watching wrestling again in 2011 with my friend Ricky. Basically, as soon as I started watching from 2011 onwards, it took me a while to get back into it, but I did, and I've been watching non-stop since then. As I say, we're in 2015 now, and the modern era, which I consider now, since I started watching again, was, I mean, my favourite during this whole period is Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, I am completely over on, and I completely get behind every week, and completely blown away by every week, and he's phenomenal without a doubt, and he is on my list because I do consider him one of the top 10 wrestlers of all time. I mean, he's again, he's a bit like Jeff Hardy for me, but of the modern era. He's like my ultimate underdog, and I just love seeing the underdog do well. I really do, because I can insert myself, sort of live vicariously through. I like doing that. Sort of through Daniel Bryan. But he is absolutely phenomenal. Some of the work that he does in the ring blows me away. He blows me away every week on Raw and pay-per-views, and he should be sitting on top of that company. even at WrestleMania 31 this year, in my opinion, if he's not in the main event, he should be in the second main event of the evening, because he deserves it. And last year he deserved his spot at WrestleMania, and he deserved his title run, albeit it was very short-lived due to circumstances in his personal life, but he deserved that, and it was such a reward for me to sitting there in 2011 watching this fairly clean-shaven, short-haired guy who was an incredible worker, but I got more and more over on him, and it's because I mean, the work that he done in the ring alone to begin with, and then the stories that he did with Kane, I was just getting more and more over with him. And he was in Team Hell No, and he had the Tag Team Championships. I got to see him in England at London 02 live. I got to see him live wrestle, which was brilliant. And once all that ended, he started getting more and more popular. The Yes movement started. I was getting more into him. The crowd were getting more into him. And then we got the huge Authority storyline. So we had this whole big package of not only is he amazing in the ring, but he's getting even better in the stories. He's getting deeper into the big stories in the WWE. He's having a feud with Triple H. Eventually he goes on to WrestleMania, defeats Triple H, defeats Batista, Randy Orton in the same night, and wins the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And I finally got my payoff, and all the fans did, after such a long wait of seeing a man that we really wanted at the top, and we got it. And I still want to see him at the top because he's fucking awesome. He really is. And the match that he had with Roman Reigns at the last pay-per-view, Fastlane, we all know that Roman Reigns isn't exactly the best in-ring worker, but Daniel Bryan took him into that match and made Roman Reigns look much, much better. The movesets Daniel Bryan uses, I mean, the missile dropkick, the dive outside the ring, which scares the shit out of me after the problems that he's had with his neck. But why did he do it? Because he will do it until he can't move anymore. He's not going to go in there being careful because he's Daniel Bryan, and he will put on one hell of a show for us, the fans. Every week he'll put his body on the line. He'll do everything even better than he did before he got injured, because of who he is. All the years he spent in the indie wrestling scene. You had ROH, which I've watched a few times. Some of his matches with CM Punk, phenomenal. Dean Ambrose. He's just got better and better. I mean, he was trained by Shawn Michaels as well, so what does that tell you? And he's just got better and better and better and better. And he is my favourite modern era wrestler, without a doubt. Not my greatest, not who I consider the greatest of all time, but he is in my top 10, and he had to be on this list without a doubt at number 6. So Daniel Bryan, keep on going, brother. Next up is a man who knows Daniel Bryan very, very well from their matches in ROH and the indie scene. And this man is one of the full package wrestlers, and the reason he is in my top 5 is because not only is he a brilliant, phenomenal, entertaining wrestler, but he, who I consider, is a close runner to The Rock in mic work, and that, without a doubt, is CM Punk. God, we miss you in the company. It's just not the same without you. Other than Daniel Bryan in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, for me, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan were the best 2 wrestlers in the ring, most entertaining overall in the WWE over the last few years. And to lose CM Punk is gutting, but he's gone on to new ventures with UFC, and I wish him all the best. But during his time in the WWE and the time that I started watching again, the matches that he had, every single one, without a doubt, was flawless. I don't think I have ever seen him have a bad match. He knows the business in the ring so well, and I consider him you know, a ring general. He is a ring general without a doubt, and the matches that he put on over the years blow me away. And the matches that he had with Daniel Bryan, the little feud they had, however be it was quite short, and I think those two could have gone on to headline pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view. And personally, I've always wanted to see Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk in a WrestleMania main event, but I don't think that's ever going to happen now, unfortunately. But CM Punk sort of had this Austin-like vibe about him, and he also had this confidence on the mic that reminded me of The Rock, and his psychology in the ring had me hooked to the screen. And he is in my top 5 because he is, I mean, he self-proclaimed best in the world. In my opinion, no, but without a doubt, he's up in my top 5 because he is thoroughly entertaining, and he was a full package. And most of these days, we don't really get the full package wrestler, you know. And by that I mean brilliant on the mic and brilliant in the ring and in top stories of the company, you know. And it's a shame he never got his main event at WrestleMania, because I'd love to have seen it. But I do miss CM Punk, so it sucks that he's gone. My number 4 here on the list is, without a doubt, The Rock. Now, The Rock, other than Vince McMahon and Stone Cold, The Rock and Stone Cold had the greatest in-ring feud of all time. Vince and Austin had, you know, had a couple of matches, and they had some incredible segments and incredible moments on the mic. Their war of words, you know, they took that to the ring a few times, but actual wrestling, I think The Rock and Stone Cold, the build up to WrestleMania 17, the 3 matches they've had at WrestleManias, and back and forth through the years of them never getting on. Those two have had one of the greatest feuds of all time. The Rock, I've never been a huge fan of his work in the ring. You know, he's got a bit of a Hulk Hogan thing about him. He's a good worker in the ring, he really is. But I've never been a fan of him for that. I've been a fan of him because he's so damn good on the mic. He is absolutely incredible, and perhaps the best ever talker in the business. And if he could teach Roman Reigns a thing or two, then he is the man. If anyone could do it, he is the man to sit down, teach Roman Reigns how to do it. I mean, without a doubt, he is, you know, what he's done in the business, what he's done for the business. You know, I've got nothing but respect for The Rock. He is still, when he comes back and does his brief visits in the WWE like he did with Rusev, I mean, that was the most entertaining moment of the whole show that night that he came back for Raw. And he steals the spotlight from anybody because of who he is, and he does it so well. And the way he can just come in and steal the spotlight and make his segment the best segment of the night in anything that he does, all the character that he brings, you know, to his persona as The Rock. I mean, I've got nothing but respect for him, so he had to be, without a doubt, on my list here at number 4. The Rock, thank you for everything that you've done, and thank you for your matches with Stone Cold. Thank you for your awesome, hilarious, sometimes serious moments on the mic. Thank you for taking the piss out of certain people backstage all these years and making me laugh when I was 14, 15, and it's still now when I'm 29, still making me laugh. And I mean, if you look at what he's doing now, he's one of the top paid actors in the world. He's in the biggest blockbusters. That man has succeeded at life and succeeded in the WWE and kept me hooked every week. Thank you, Rock. Now this man, I think, basically changed the business in WWE. He came in and changed it at a time where it was just all about, you know, the big muscly guy, 6'5", you know, 350 pounds, nothing but muscle. But this guy came in and changed the business and showed other smaller guys that they can come in and do it. And Bret Hart came in and showed the world that the smaller man can come into a world of giants and put on one hell of a show through technical wrestling. And he set the standard for all other guys that came in that were about his sort of stature, that you can come in and you can be on the top of the WWE if you put your heart and soul into it. He was perhaps one of the hardest workers ever, and we all know the Hart Dungeon, we all know the training that he went through, we all know the amount of passion and work he put into everything that he done, and he had to be in my number 3 here because of who he is. And I've got nothing but respect for Bret Hart. Bret Hart basically began this whole era of the smaller guys coming in and putting on decent, great matches through technical wrestling against the big guys and winning the top belts and showing them that it can be done. Because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the likes of Chris Jericho, we wouldn't have the likes of Eddie Guerrero, we wouldn't have Daniel Bryan, we wouldn't have CM Punk, just to name a few guys who aren't that big at all, can come in and succeed in a world of giants. And Bret Hart, you know, he's done it all within WWE, and it's a shame that I didn't really watch a great deal of wrestling at a certain point in the 90s, just because I couldn't, you know, we didn't have the money for pay-per-views and things like that, so I never really got to see much of the work he did when he was younger, or when I was younger, should I say. But thank God I've got the WWE Network now, because I can sit back and, which I have done, and work and watch some of his older matches. I sat down the other day and watched his match with Stone Cold at WrestleMania, and I consider that one of the best matches ever, and I also consider that to have one of the best visuals, one that stuck in my mind forever, when Bret Hart's got Stone Cold in the sharpshooter and blood is pouring from Stone Cold's face. That is one of my favourite visuals ever in WWE history. Wow, that match was awesome. Incredible. So I'm going to sit down and go through more Bret Hart matches, but without a doubt he had to be at my number 3. He really did. He's Bret Hart, for God's sake, and if I could meet the man, I would shake his hand. Now, some people perhaps say that the next wrestler is the greatest of all time, but my list is about both mic work, in-ring work slash, you know, them being the whole package. I have a number 1. It's been number 1 my whole life. I'll get onto that in a minute. But my number 2 is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Because, need I say more? He's Shawn Michaels. I think his second run is the greatest run ever. His in-ring work alone on his second run was better than his first run. He's like a fine wine. I mean, the matches he had with Undertaker at WrestleMania, amazing. The stories that he tells in the ring, amazing. The emotion that this man shows when he's in the ring, incredible. This man can tell a story in that ring better than anybody. He's Shawn Michaels. What more can I say? He had to be on my number 2. Now my number one. This, again, everyone's going to have their different opinions, and I may get some negative comments, I'm going to get some positive comments. This is about everyone sharing their opinion, and this is mine. So I watched wrestling from the late 80s, had a break, watched it some more in the 90s, had a break. And in the late 90s, when I was at school, I became a hardcore fan of wrestling. And it was because of my number 1 choice. who I consider the greatest of all time. He is the whole damn package. He's amazing on the mic, he's amazing in the ring. I truly believe he is the whole package. He's had some of the most memorable segments in the history of wrestling. He's been involved in two of the greatest feuds in the history of wrestling. He has the greatest finisher in the history of wrestling. He has the most amazing entrance music in the history of wrestling. And no one have I marked out for more than watching Stone Cold do everything that he does. Everything. When I was 14, 15, if Stone Cold was on, before I could get pay-per-views over here, I used to save up and buy VHS copies of pay-per-views. And if Stone Cold's name was on the back of that cover, I would be buying that video. I'll be buying that pay-per-view. I was drawn to the TV when he was on the mic. He was the baddest son of a bitch ever. He brought in the Attitude Era, the greatest era in wrestling history. He is my number one. That won't ever change. He's Stone Cold, and I mark out for him still. And if he was to ever come back, WrestleMania 32 in Texas, please God, come back Stone Cold, because you are my favourite of all time, without a doubt. Thank you. You are the reason that I watched from the late 90s again and had me hooked. It was the Attitude Era that done it for me. You were the Attitude Era. He's not in the WWE anymore, but I listen to his podcasts as much as I can. He's entertaining on them, for God's sake. I've watched a few of his movies and he's still entertaining at movies. He is so talented, it's crazy. And if I was given the chance to meet anyone in the WWE, it would be Stone Cold, without a doubt. If I could go for a beer with anyone in the world, it would be Stone Cold. If I could eat a steak with anyone in the world, it would be Stone Cold. WWE 13 was released obviously a few years ago now, and I've still got this and I will never ever get rid of it. It was what came in the box. It was his signature. I paid about 60 quid for this damn game just to get Stone Cold's special edition and his signature. That's how much this man means to me, and thank you Stone Cold, because you are the greatest of all time in my mind and my number one wrestler ever. Thank you for entertaining me all these years. I'll continue to watch your matches. I did the other day with that Bret Hart match at WrestleMania 13. I'm still watching clips from your McMahon feud. I'm still watching clips from your matches and segments with The Rock. Still listen to your podcast, watch your movies. Mark out for you when I hear your music. When you came out at WrestleMania 30, that made the night for me. Thank you, Stone Cold. Now I can sit and talk about this, but I know some of you may not want to sit here for ages listening to me ramble. So as I was trying to keep this as short as possible, it's my list. There it is. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions, negative or positive, I don't care. Put them in the section below. Sam, I'm looking forward to seeing your top 10 list, dude. Thank you for an awesome night last night, but I'll put your link in the description in the video below. I look forward to watching it. Probably going to be different to mine, but let me know when you've done it, man. And everyone go over to Sam's channel. He's going to do this top 10 list, but he also does covers of his favourite songs. He writes his own songs. He does his new Sunday session. Really talented. Go check him out, guys. There are links in the description below. And thank you for watching. Thoughts and comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe, because it all means a lot. And ciao for now.